Welcome back, people. Off out to the workshop. Actually, it's quite a balmy day out here. Last day of autumn, too. So, winter tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Not so much. Anyway, this Dave's Diary update is all about a precautionary tale. And the tale is all about my track saw. I came out here late afternoon, early evening yesterday. Actually, was it? No, it might have been late evening. And I was setting stuff up, but I put my track saw on the rail, and the damn thing would rock. And I thought, I must. The rail itself must be not supporting the saw as I would have thought. So I investigated a bit more and packed it up like I've got here, so the rail doesn't flex, it supports the saw, and I've got the same effective thing down that end. Yay, put the saw back on, the damn thing was still rocking. Quite a bit. And I thought, how's that possible? Cast my eye along the rail itself without the saw being there. Dead straight. And I thought, So I tilted the saw over like this, and I cast my eye along this edge, and it's got a little bit of a bow in it. And I thought, that this hasn't been dropped. It's been very well treated. And then I looked on the other side, along here, and it's got a massive, great big bow in it. I mean, significant. Oh, how is that even possible? And it's still got a tiny bit of a bow in it. Not much, but... So I had to have a bit of a think about that. So I pulled the cover plate off to check for squareness, etc. And then when I was fiddling, I thought, hang on. The only way it could have a bow in it, if it's not bent, is these two little grub screws here must be pressuring the plate that the actual saw motor is mounted to, must be pressuring it and pulling the plate out. Now, I think this is not a good design feature, and I'll explain why. I'm not being overly horrible, but I'm just looking at something else that I hadn't noted last night. No. I'll leave that alone. I looked at two other grub screws, but they're actually the mounting blocks for the or screws for the ends. Now, those ends will come into the story, and I'll add them earlier rather than later in the story. This does not pivot on a pin at each end. As you tilt the saw, it doesn't pivot around a center pin. It actually tracks on a double trunnion. Kind of a good idea. It also means that the trunnion can direct the actual pivot point to a specific designed point. Quite clever, and a bit of a pain in the butt because of that trunnion structure. When you loosen the knobs at the front and the back, the whole mechanism actually it has a lot of slop and is a little bit finicky, not difficult, finicky. Go look up that word, to get the saw set and aligned, and very easy because of these two grub screws, set screws, whatever you want to call them. It's easy to wind those up and cause the plate to bow if the associated, the knobs for tilt aren't loose. Flip side, when you go to do all this, you want to have them just snugged up so that when you adjust these, the whole mechanism can tilt in the trunnions. Long story short, I'll try, is I backed these out to not load up the body itself as you tilt it. Now, why I say I'm not an engineer, but why I say what I say, or why I say what, one of those ones, that grub screw in the design is quite a ways from where you lock off, meaning you can impart a flex to the plate because of that distance away. If this grub screw, I'm spitballing the idea here, if that had been close to where the trunnions were, it would be less able to flex this plate. It is also good that they're there because it distributes the load across the plate, stopping still a relatively thin, unsupported edge to remain flattish. Problem being that if you tilt the saw over and you give any pressure to the saw sideways to make it more square, and then you lock it off, the pressure gets re-exerted on these two grub screws, and guess what? Creates a bow. It doesn't push the plate down, it lifts the plate up at that point. That's why I was making the reference for those being so far away allows that flex to occur. Now, all the Makita engineers out there would be going, no, it doesn't actually do that. I go, well, prove that I'm wrong. Because when I took the pressure off of these grub screws, the plate became straight again, meaning somewhere in the setup process for the plate and the squareness, that round was introduced, either by winding those up when the wing nuts were too tight, or that to get it square when it was out of square, when you push the body over to lock them off, you lift the trunnions in a manner that puts a bow into the plate. So, bugger. Good saw, yes, but you have to be mindful that you can inadvertently create a problem. So now I've got the saw sitting pretty much flat, and I'm going to guess square, because all I did was I put a engineer square, small one, on the table here with that plate off and trued it up to the blade. The cuts will be the final determining factor, and I'll get that sorted reasonably soon, today maybe. The mitigating thing for that is, the board that I'm about to cut, or the boards, get their final truing squareness from a dimensioning router setup. So I don't have to simply rely on the U-Butte tracksaw itself to give me those accuracies of cut. Long story short, though, another one, that shouldn't even be able to happen in my scenario. I don't know how you get over it. Maybe make the plate a little bit more robust, a little bit more rigid so it can't flex. But for it to be able to be flexed inadvertently, deliberately, okay, no engineer can, stop us users of tools, from doing silly things. But that was an innocent, unobserved change to the base plate that really, ideally, shouldn't be able to happen. Would I swap this for any other machine? Probably not. There's only one or two that equal or are better than this particular saw, arguably, by looking at the reviews, but it is right up in the top one or two. Okay, so what would you swap it for? One that doesn't have a flexi base, but is not as capable as this machine? Well, of course not. But an observation, it can't be ignored. Check your base plate on your saw and see whether it's rocking. Do like I've got here. Put it in the middle of a sheet, the rail where the sheet's supporting it, and just rock it backwards and forwards And this one's just got probably a 1 or 2 millimeter rock there. Before, it was quite significant. So, yeah, very interesting. Caught me by surprise, puzzled me somewhat, and it did take a little bit of nutting out just to get that where those grub screws are holding the saw square, because that's what they're there for. They actually can fine-tune the tilt. But it would be nice to be able to fine-tune the trunnions, not the base plate. But base plate should just trail along, being a base plate rather than the mechanism for tilt. I know. I'm not an engineer, and there'll be reason for not doing that. But if I want to true up the trunnions, that's what gives me my square, or fine-tuning it. Tell me where I'm wrong. The Makita saw, the Mitre saw, has that very sort of thing. The actual pivot, right in there, right where it pivots, kind of what I'm saying, that hole that I'm pointing to is where you adjust your saw. And that tilts it. So that's where I would have thought it makes sense. It's got a pivot and a trunnion type of gizmo setup sort of thing there. Anyway, that makes sense. That less so. But it could have been just a function of the fact that the saw has got an unsupported edge and the base plate is relatively light. Okay, well that's it. Going to be hooking up the extractor in a moment and doing a couple of cuts. I've determined how I want to measure out and cut down these sheets. And just as an example, this is like this piece here is 950 long. It fits between my pivots of the rail there and butts up against the bench dogs that I've got in the MFT style of top. I've got several there. There's one underneath the rail there. And yeah, excuse my cough. I can slide the sheet up against the pins, but importantly, it butts up against the parallel arm guide, gauge, fence sort of thing. That gives me my parallelness, squareness to the rail, and it works out pretty darn good. Thank you very much. I did pick up a little bit of discrepancy. Don't know why. Not going to chase that down. Well, I did. I adjusted this by a mil or two down there, but considering the length, not too much of a problem. I had it tuned in another slightly different configuration to the last fraction of a millimeter. So why it changed, I don't know. But in the previous video, I think I did mention that, and I'm just going to allow the fact that the more I use this, the more I'll understand its eccentricities, which it shouldn't have any. And if I can find out what those eccentricities are, I may be able to counter them. This whole mechanism, as I've said endlessly, this whole mechanism will be rebuilt just to try and improve a couple of little features. Just a couple. And we'll go from there. I like this setup. I like a lot of these things that are refining it, and well, just this inclusion of this grey pad here, it has holes drilled in it every 50 millimeters, meaning I can hop the rail across in those increments, plus use packers or combinations thereof, plus the fact that I've got the flexibility of extending it out further should I wish with these holes. It becomes more and more, how would you say, I might reduce the requirement for having a longer arm here. I like the idea of having it compact, the whole system, and moving it across in increments using the holes in the top, the auxiliary top, this grey one in this case, rather than the arms. So, excuse my voice again, the need to have these additional holes becomes reduced by having these increments in a pad that can be placed, to accommodate a similar or even better approach to it. So, righty-ho. Yeah, I'll do some cuts and see how everything works. If it works well, you might get a video. If it works terribly, you'll definitely get a video, because I've said before, all of these videos are done without editing and warts and all. So when I make a bit of a cock-up or a boo-boo for those more sensitive ears, I'm going to show it. Yeah. And and you can laugh. Righty-ho. That's it. Go do some work, Dave. Righty-ho. Okay, we'll see you later now. Bye.